All righty, here we go. The Sikkim 365 post-game show. Paul, Catalina, and Garrett Ross. And much like Baylor today, a wonky start, but we got going. I'm just going to tell you a little inside baseball here. Mm-hmm. When we set up the desk, we tear down like what we don't need. So we always have 3 mics on this desk. And then we take it down to 1 when there's only 1 person sitting here. Well, Garrett, when we were doing that, I was in charge of the mics.
You were?
I was. I took all 3 of them off the desk. And then we started playing the music there, and there wasn't a mic. So much, again, my performance probably reflects Baylor wins 30-7 over Long Island, but that was wonky, Garrett. I mean, it was wonky in the first half. Dare I say that the weather delay might have saved Baylor a much more embarrassing day?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment, man, because the way things were ending at the end of the first half, they had completely lost all momentum. Mm-hmm. Long Island started feeling comfortable. They were like, okay, we can play with these boys. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you go into the halftime, you got the weather delay. And, I mean, it to an extent it helped, but, they didn't look much better coming out regardless.
No, I mean, and it was just one of those things. And Garrett, I got to tell you, man, this is a team to me that looks uneven. They got the look. Here's the good news. The 6-game losing streak is over.
Correct.
They got that win. It didn't matter how they got it. They had to get it. But they really don't have a fire out there. It's strange to watch this team play, and they kind of float through games right now. And I don't know if that's the best thing for them. They need to play with a little bit of fire. And look, Texas comes in here next week, so I don't know that you need to be messing around.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I think if you look today, for me personally, it was the first time watching this team all year where one player was like, okay, well, there's a little something. And that was Dawson Pendergrass. I mean, he was the first time, and it's crazy to think about this, but this is the first time Baylor's had a running back go over 100 yards all season. If you think the reliable, violent offense, the basis of this whole concept, and you're just now able to do that with a third-string guy against Long Island. But regardless, even though he provided a spark that nobody else has been able to do. And then the rest of the time, the offense was just flat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was totally flat. And look, not a banner day for the Big 12 so far.
Not at all.
In that Mizzou beats Kansas on, my God, a gloriously long boot, 60-yard or 61-yard field goal. 61-yard field goal to end it from Harrison Mevis. And then Ohio beats Iowa State 10-7, and offense still is the hardest thing to find in the state of Iowa.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma over Tulsa right now, 35-14 in the second quarter, and Baylor, of course, gets what should have been an obvious win over Long Island, but it wasn't. I mean, it was 16-7 at one point. It was 16-7 at halftime, and there's a point during the game where Long Island had the momentum.
Yeah.
And that is where I think this team lacks, is that killer instinct of they were up 16-0, and yeah, it was raining and gloomy and all that, and I can get that, but they at 16-0, they like the killer instinct to go, let's make it 23-0 and 30-0 right now. Yeah. Let's do that right now, and then let's just end this and coast. And they coasted anyway, but it didn't have to be the way that it was. And they had the 2-hour weather delay, which I think would have taken all the wind out of, when you're the road team and have to sit through that, it takes all the wind out of your sails. When you're the home team and sit through it, you're just chilling at your place.
Yeah, I think another thing for me is they aren't the team who is bringing any of the pressure. They're getting hit, and not just physically, but there's no energy. If you look at Long Island, they started taking it to Baylor. That's really what we've seen all year long. Baylor has never really been able to flip the script and take it to a team and be the more dominant opposing team in general out there all year long. I'm still concerned about this passing attack. I think they greatly need Blake Shapen to be able to get back out there because when you look at these, like when you have a guy like Keytron and, they should be getting the ball more often than not. Then you shouldn't be having games end and guys like Keytron Jackson only having 2 targets. Like that's really inexcusable. Yeah,
it is. They've got to get better. Look, Sawyer Robertson was 10 of 22 for 113. Stephen from Virginia, please call back. I just saw your call and was about to take it. But yeah, maybe like the best case scenario is that their spark comes next week against Texas and they can shock the world. But they are the victims of some unfortunate scheduling for sure.
No, that's a really good point. I think if you would have been able to flip, maybe start off with Long Island, work through Texas State, and get to this point, you might be looking at a different situation. That's a really good point I think we kind of overlooked. But at the same time, we talked Sawyer a little bit right there. For me, when I was watching him today, a lot of the throws were just off, and they looked like they didn't have much behind them. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's the foot, or is that just like a young quarterback going through the motions?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, look, I'm sure he was moving around pretty well today, so I don't think he was that limited by it. But, yeah, maybe there's some of that. But I do think it's a young quarterback who doesn't quite know what he's doing yet.
I was trying to, yeah.
I mean, and then, look, that's fair, right? I mean, this is his second start for this offense. Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, South Carolina 13-3 over Georgia just before half. Let's go into the chat room here and see. There's some negativity. This is probably the team's only win this season, unless there's something dramatic that changes. I don't know if it's their only win, but they are not going to be heavily favored in any game that they're going to be favored in from here on out. If they are, it's not going to be a big one. I mean, look, Baylor and West Virginia is the last game of the regular season for the Big 12. Or in that, I don't know what time it's going to be played, but it's their last game of the regular season for each of them. And, right now, I don't think any of those teams are going to be playing for the Big 12 title.
No.
So, yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm trying to pull up their schedule because I want to look through it. Let's see. Yeah, so
you're looking at that, like that could be a game where, they might be. I mean, Cincinnati right now doesn't look like a game they're going to be favored. It's going to be on the road. They're not going to be favored against Texas, UCF, or Tech.
But I think, you bring up a good point. Looking at the schedule right here, I think your best bet from my opinion, is the stretch between Cincinnati and Kansas State where you get Iowa State and Houston. The way Iowa State's playing right now, they can't get anything established. Houston's struggling. Those are games where Baylor needs to show me a little bit more, but I'm more comfortable saying, like, they might have a chance in those. And then TCU's always a weird game. TCU hasn't really looked that good this year as well, but generally Baylor struggles with them. So, I think realistically, if I'm looking at this, it's Iowa State, Houston, and then at the end it gets West Virginia. But West Virginia has shown that they're better than expected into the year, and I think we'll learn a lot more about them tonight when they play Pitt.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. I mean, West Virginia lost to Penn State, expected, beat Duquesne, expected. This is going to be a tight game, I think, and we'll see the backyard brawl. It always is. So this was, I'll just tell you, as uninspiring a win as you can see.
Yeah.
Still, let's take a couple calls and then we'll go to our first break. Steven from Virginia, thanks for your call. Long time no talk, buddy.
Hey, it's good to talk to y'all. It's good to talk to y'all after a win too. I think the uninspiring part is not too great. I think Baylor seems to be playing up or down to their competition of their opponent, and that's not too great. But I still think we're winning a bowl game this year. I think 6 wins is probably the minimum or the maximum of wins, but we'll see. I wasn't really inspired, but they did what they needed to do. So I'll catch you later, guys.
All right, Steven, thanks for your call. Hope all's going well. Steven, a big baseball fan. St. Louis, here's part of the reason we hardly ever heard from Steven. The St. Louis Cardinals are terrible. He's a big Cardinals fan. Anyway, Matt in D.C., thank you for your call.
I appreciate it, guys. Hey, I'm just glad to win a game finally. Hang in there, Steven. I think it's not all gloom and doom for the Cardinals. Rangers are hanging in there too. But just a few things. Just feel good to get a win in. I think the defense. I think effort was there from the beginning. The effort was even better after the rain delay. The one thing I hated was the fact that we came out and started with a 3-and-out on offense. This offense is still uninspired for whatever reason. But just glad I think my Kodiak can for the day goes to Pendergrass. I think he's going to be playing a lot more moving forward. He runs the ball just as hard as Reese and Richardson. I love it. And you know what? Got the win. And you know what? Let's beat Texas next week, guys. That defense is going to need a performance like we did against Utah. And we're probably going to have to get to at least 30 points to even have a chance. So, Baylor fans, get to the game. I'm flying in for this game. Don't sell your tickets to UT fans. Show up one last time. Let's get these guys, and let's pull out a miracle. Let's do it. And I'll see y'all guys next week. Thank y'all.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Matt in D.C. Yeah, that's one they're going to need, Garrett. I mean, they're going to need all the help they can get, and they don't, like you said, they don't need a bunch of Texas fans in the stands.
Yeah, I think that's one of those situations like, we've seen the history. Do not just hold on to them, show up. It doesn't matter. Do not let as many burnt orange people fill the stadium as possible.
Yeah. So, this is an Art Briles story that has nothing to do with anything but Baylor versus Texas. The first time Art Briles said anything to me without me saying something to him first I was at a press conference. I want to say it was a press. Yeah, I can't remember what it was, a press conference or something. But I had produced, because we were carrying the radio station I was working on. Yeah. I produced the Mac Brown show. It was I just ran it locally. It wasn't any kind of, wasn't like I was producing it. I was just the board. Buttons. Yeah. I was the board op, the button pusher for that game. And so on Mac Brown's show, the week before they played Baylor, they had a road game against somebody, and then they had Baylor. And right at the end of the show, Mac said, we love playing in Waco because it's like an extra home game for us. We always see a bunch of fans there. And I went to the press conference on Monday, and Art Briles grabbed me and said, what did Mac say on that post-game show? And I said, it was the post-game show. It was the post-game show. It was the Texas beat somebody, and they were coming to play in Waco. He said, what did Mac say on that post-game show? I said, he said that he was fired up to see all the Texas fans that are going to be at Floyd Casey Stadium. And it was, but the fact that a Texas coach could at that time say that was kind of like, oh man. And so they would especially now that this team is good and a CFP contender, potentially their fans, those t-shirts that were wrinkled up in the closet are coming out of the woodworks. It is going to be, a lot of UT fans are all around the state, and you see them. So, yes, Baylor would be wise not to give them another opportunity to feel like they're at home.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think last weekend we were walking into the stadium. I walked by a guy decked out in nothing but burnt orange. You had another guy in Michigan, and then they kept cutting to a guy on the berm in a Vince Young jersey. So, yeah, there are I guess just a large amount of Texas fans here in Waco. Say, go out of your way to try to prevent them from taking over McLean Stadium.
I mean, that's what and look, I'm not trying to, this is the Baylor postgame show, so I'm just telling you, that's how it wound up back in the day. They want to see that again. So Paxton says Texas and Oklahoma clear number 1 and 2 in the Big 12. I mean, right now, TCU's taking a loss. Kansas State's taking a loss now. So Tech is 0-2.
I agree and disagree, because I think Texas is the clear-cut head and shoulders above everybody else, and Oklahoma is just waiting to get caught up. I'm still not sold on Oklahoma. And then after watching Kansas State today, especially if Will Howard is hurt, I don't like their chances to push Texas as much as I did last week. But yeah, I'm still not sold on Oklahoma, but I get where he's coming from.
Right now they are. So that's certainly where they are. So I gotta read this text that I just got. I can't read it. I can't read it on the air.
Okay.
But it's very funny. All right. When we come back, 254-339-1122, give us your call. Shoot us a message in the chat room, and we will be back to cover more of this Baylor 30-7 win over Long Island. This is the Sick of 365 postgame show.
Cars priced right both days. car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, Your Bank for Life, 3 Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Welcome back to the Sikkim 365 post-game show. Baylor wins 30-7. Look, and today, here's why Baylor, it's 30-7 and it's uninspired. But look, number 3 Florida State barely escapes against Boston College in Chestnut Hill.
Yep.
Right now, South Carolina is doing that thing that they've done under Shane Beamer is the minute you count them out and be like, yeah, well, you know, that was fine. It's 14-3 at halftime against Georgia. Now, I fully expect Georgia to come out of halftime slinging, but you know, like they have not played excitedly yet this year. They've been kind of bored, and sometimes I can catch up to you. So it's a weird day in college football. Mizzou, who has not had really, they've had one. That win over Florida was kind of a big one over Dan. Like that kind of ended Dan Mullen's tenure when they beat Florida at Mizzou. But Eli Drinkwitz hasn't had a big one over a team that was not going to fire their coach. Like Florida was on their way to firing Dan Mullen, and Eli Drinkwitz got that win, and that was a big one. But this was huge for Eli Drinkwitz because he has yet to have a signature win there at Mizzou, and this one is a big over a top 15 team. I guess they're number 12 or 13 team in the country. You know, so maybe lower than that, but like I
think they were 15.
Yeah, 15th in the country. So that's a huge win for them, a rival. So let's go to Kyle in South Texas. Kyle, your thoughts?
Oh, do you really want to hear my thoughts?
I do. I'm quite interested.
You know what? I don't know who the last two callers though was, but I didn't see it, man. I didn't see the energy. You know, I want to see the guys playing hard. Listen, we know the talent evaluation is missed. We know we don't have the players. I just want to see a team that comes out there with some type of edge. They need to listen to some of the calling, you know, what people are saying. I don't know where they're going to get this edge. I don't see the energy. I was looking at this game going, listen, if they came out, they played extremely hard, just showed a lot of energy, I can support this team. I cannot support a team that just doesn't look like they want to play. And how many games have we been talking about this with under Aranda? And I'm going to tell you again, I was a Aranda fan. He has totally lost my confidence. I don't see anything. I thought Matt Prowlitz may have been able to bring it. I haven't seen it. Some of those guys after the first quarter, they should have been chewing their butts out, saying, what do we see here? We didn't see anything. It's just so disappointing. Let me hear what you guys have to say about that. Did I miss it? Did we see any energy at all out there?
No, absolutely not. And Kyle, thanks for your call. Here's the thing. I'm not a call out guy. You know me. I know. I'm not like calling out people. I think Dave Aranda is a brilliant coach. He's
phenomenal.
But they have stumbled into an issue here, talent wise. I think that they're not a very deep team. They don't have a lot of guys that the rest of the Big 12 would be fighting for right now. And not that those guys can't develop, but they've got to either develop those guys, and some of those guys have come along too slowly.
Right.
You know, Josh White, who they got out of the transfer portal from LSU last year, that thought was going to be a big contributor, he's a special teamer. That's what he is. They have not hit on a lot of things, and the energy around this program currently feels to me like it did in the middle of the Guy Morris tenure.
Absolutely.
If you want to go through it, I'm not getting into the game, man, like the game atmosphere thing. I'm just talking about the fan excitement meeting what's going on in the field.
The quality, yeah.
So at Floyd Casey Stadium, you would walk through a skeleton of a tailgate, and there weren't people didn't stay for the whole game. People weren't enthusiastic. It was just kind of dull. And then, they would have half-hearted effort. They would have a game like they did against Utah last week, but ultimately lose it. So that you'd get, okay, maybe they're taking a step and lose it. And then they would come out against a team like LIU when they'd play those teams, and the games would look like this one today where it was like, all right, they won, but they didn't win how they looked like they should have, and then the other team was in this for a while. So it reminds me a lot of that, where you have some good things and you have some positive things, but there's too many negatives all around it. And Dave Aranda, like I said last week, they're playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
So every time they seemingly solve a problem, another one pops up. And this was a win, and that's good, but the schedule is getting so tough.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like when I talk about this team, I come across so negative, but I'm really not trying to. I'm just trying to look at the situation and tell you how it is. There is no energy. One thing that I have noticed consistently throughout the season is, as we were coming in, we kept hearing all at Big 12 media days, all preseason, Mike Smith's this, Mike Smith's getting all these, he's causing all this disruption and everything. And I'm not trying to single him out in particular, but just as an example, okay, he had 2 tackles today against Long Island, okay? Why, if you're that good, how are you only having 2 tackles? If you go through and look at Baylor's defense, your leading tackler today was a freshman in Jeremy Evans with 4 tackles. 4 tackles is your leading tackler. This dude was playing 2A football last year.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. That's inexcusable. And if you go and look at Long Island, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 8 guys with 9 guys with 4 or more tackles, including one, their leading tackler with 10. There is no reason for Baylor to come out and play like an FCS program week in and week out. It's It's to the boiling point. I understand why people are mad. You did get the win today, but like I don't think it did anything for anybody as far as from a confidence standpoint. I don't think it did anything.
No, I think you're right there, Garrett. That's one of the things is they've got to go out and play a fun, exciting game.
Yeah.
They've got to do that. They've got to get the fans excited, to get all that, like to get that energy back. You know, they've got to do something. And because it's, you know, I don't think I've ever, and look, they were playing Long Island. I cannot break down Long Island with any kind of reasonable, educated talk here, other than this is a 30-7 game. They scored 4 touchdowns in the game. They got a safety on what was a total FCS play. You know, like that's what it was. But Long Island played pretty inspired for a lot of it, and Baylor just didn't. It just doesn't seem like there's energy.
There's nothing. It's just flat.
It just things kind of happen there. All right. I mean, I really after all that, I don't think that.
I don't know, man.
I don't think there's anything more I can say.
Me
you know,
either.
like just how it is, right? And so, I mean, we'll be back here next week after the game, whatever happens against Texas, and that's going to be how they come out for that game in their place against a team that is championship caliber.
Absolutely.
If they can meet Texas's intensity and enthusiasm, maybe that's what they've just been waiting for, is that. Hopefully they're healthy enough. Maybe Blake Shapen can get back. I don't know. I mean, it was 2 to 3 weeks. This would be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if he's on the shorter side of that, then that would be good. Hopefully for them, Blake Shapen can get back. But ultimately, this was just not a banner day for even a win, but they got the win. The losing streak is over. That's what's important. So I know that we're a little bit short today, but we've all been waiting on this game to be over since 11 o'clock this morning. Well, I mean, that's when it started, but like it should have been over 2 hours ago, and it wasn't. So we're going to go ahead, and that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we're back again on Monday talking about this, my show, the triple option at 1 o'clock on Monday, and then, of course, the regular main show with all three of us, 3 to 6. We'll break it all down. This is the Sick'em 365 postgame show.
Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have